RDA versus Felder. So many storylines going in, and we talked about this over here. Do not default to the old lazy adage of this is a striker in Felder versus a grappler in RDA. RDA will put your lights out on his feet, and Felder's extremely hard to take down and can take care of himself on the ground. I mean, it's just not one of those things that's like this old school mindset. And so many times I see that we fall back into it. But the top guys aren't out there boxing and wrestling. Or I apologize, they're not boxing or wrestling. They're boxing and wrestling. That's what MMA is. So I think when we saw this fight, I mean, it was great, right? In all fairness, RDA reminded us how good he is. Paul Felder went out and reinforced for all of us just how damn tough he is. And the story of the fight and the X's and O's and who punched and kicked more and who pushed the pace of the takedowns. Okay, great. That's the entertainment side. I hope you enjoyed it, but there was more going into this. Paul Felder took this fight on extremely short notice, which meant he had to make weight on even shorter notice, and did. Meanwhile, somebody else on the card who knew about this fight for 3 months missed weight. Do you see where that becomes frustrating? You guys will remember Adesanya in his last fight had 2 teammates on the card, and part of his post-fight interview was telling Dana, please do something about this. Take 80% of their money, not 20% of their money. Just to share with you where that is coming from, though. I don't know if anything could be more crystal clear than Paul Felder not even knowing about the fight and suffering and doing what he said he would do in the time that he said he would do it, no matter how bad the deck was stacked against him, and somebody else on the card who knew all about it for 3 months missed weight. That's not to kick the guy who missed weight. By the way, it's to add a little bit to the idea that Adesanya is bringing up that there needs to be something more done. The motivations in place right now are apparently not motivating enough. They're just not, and it's a new school mindset. I come from the old school, but I will tell you, nobody missed weight. It is a new phenomenon against these fake tough guys. And the sport used to be all tough guys, but there also used to be 5 and 6 events a year. It was very competitive. Now when you have 52 events a year, just in one organization, you got 24 in another, you start spreading the butter around, you start taking these guys that aren't real tough guys. Paul Felder's a tough guy, and he made weight. And the biggest story coming out of that fight was that 2 of the judges have all 5 rounds for RDA. One judge has the entire fight for Paul Felder. Now, why that is peculiar, what's bothersome is that's the end of it. There will be no, hey, come in the back room, tell me what you saw. You saw something very different than your fellow licensed cohorts. What was it? And we could probably live with that. Whatever the answer was, I mean, I think that judge needs to say what he saw. He needs to mark what it is he saw. And if he saw something and interpreted it different, he is well within his rights to mark it for whoever the hell that he wants. But the ongoing theme in Nevada is absolutely nothing happens, particularly when it doesn't outweigh a fight itself. When RDA, who was the clear winner of the fight, did win the fight, particularly in Nevada, then everybody just gets up and goes home. Just one of those things, because meanwhile, there's a boxing event taking place. And the boxing event has a guy who was warned in the first round for an accidental headbutt. The referee had brought this to everyone's attention. There was an accidental headbutt. They continued the fight. In the second round, the gentleman who was headbutt now has a swollen eye. The eye is closed. So the referee was attempting to say this is a no contest. I'm having to stop the fight even though it's in a second round for an infraction that happened in the first round. We're just going to call this whole fight off. So the commission sits ringside and watches the entire replay. It takes them 26 minutes where the 2 athletes are standing in the ring. The audience is sitting there bored. The promoter is begging that his camera time isn't completely shot. 26 minutes. They never once saw a headbutt. They saw a jab go right into this guy's eye to close his eye, and then decided after the 26 minutes to back the referee and call it no contest. And you're kind of sitting there going, what are we doing here? What are we doing here and why are we here, right? No matter how many more steps of complexities and sophistication you want to put on something as dumbed down and stupid as a fight, you're only going to trick the system even worse. Why were they even watching an instant replay? A number of years ago, that wasn't a thing. It became this big thing that instant replay be invoked. The theory behind instant replay is so that you can call the damn thing correctly. You can call it straight, you can get an analysis and get a second look. That's the theory behind it. But when the people within it don't have the intelligence to use the mechanisms in place appropriately, you just end up with a bigger disaster. There's discussions going on now that 3 judges aren't enough, let's bring in 5. In fact, let's bring in 7. Now, nobody discusses where those 7 are even going to sit or how they're going to do this from a logistics standpoint, but somehow the more is better. Why would 7 judges be better than 3? You have 3 judges, 2 of them believe one guy won every single round. Another judge thinks the other athlete won the fight. You have a commission that steps in to review a film, 26 minutes, never sees a headbutt take place, and decides to go with the referee anyway. Does the referee have that authority? Does he have the authority to make a decision, right, wrong, or indifferent? I don't know the answer to that question. Does he have that authority? Does the commission have the ability to override it? Because if the answer is yes, the referee has what's called discretion, as he does in most other sports, which means he can even get it wrong, then why'd we go to the damn review in the first place? And if you go to a review and nothing's there, it's one of these things, right? The experts can tell us all about the dinosaurs that became extinct 60 million years ago. They can't tell us who shot JFK 60 years ago, and they have that on video. So you start to wonder, why do we want to keep on adding measures and now they're talking about doing this open scoring. I don't have a dog in that fight. I give a damn if they do open scoring or not. I'm only bringing to you the point that no matter how many things you do to be sophisticated, to make sure that you get to a better and more appropriate result, if you have the same people that are running, if they've screwed up everything else, you think you're going to think of something that's dummy proof? In no other walk of life would this happen. That's a big blunder. Who did it? Meanwhile, over in the MMA world, we got a big discrepancy here. How did we get here? In the other walk of life. Nevada, you get up and go home. You're a fighter, you have an infraction, you will come to a meeting. They will sit there, they will attempt to shame you, they will look down on you, they will talk down to you. They are the smallest dot on the political map. There is nothing smaller than a commission, but they will come into that room with all the authority that ever made them sign up in that job for the first place. They get one wrong, Chael comes over and makes a video about it. Then I get an email from them later. Hey, why'd you say all those things? Why'd I say those? That's what happened. I haven't even passed judgment on it. I'm leaving that to the audience to do. I'm just taking a little bit of a tone. I haven't said a damn thing here. You had a boxing fight where you had a 26-minute review and came to the same conclusion that the referee had come to before the review ever took place. That should be embarrassing for you. Very. Had you come to a different opinion, of which would have involved that you actually watched the tape for 26 minutes, now you got a problem with the referee who made a call that turned out not to be true. You have a problem either way. Meanwhile, 3 licensed judges, 2 of them, one guy pitched a shutout, other judge, the guy didn't even win the fight. It's a lot to think about, but it's one of these stories that isn't going to go away. And when you try to get some smart guy in the room, having a smart guy about fighting, I mean, do you see the problem to start with? Do you see the problem with that title? I'm an expert on rules of fighting. You're a what? And what college did you get that degree from? Well, I didn't get it, but I'm an expert on the rules of fighting. Why are you an expert on the rules of fighting? Well, you sit around and think about this stuff? You wrote a dissertation? You did a thesis? You presented this? You were approved? You were accredited? What do you mean I'm an expert in the rules of fight? But you'll always get some guy that wants to come. Here's how you fix it. You do open scoring. You bring in more judges. We bring in an instant replay. We have an analysis. We're going to do all these things at the fight. None of them we get right. I wish somebody would have brought this to our attention. We could do something called checks and balances with the leadership that passes these rules that has no integrity to enforce them. any other walk of life, that problem would be solved quickly.